Thank you for being my teacher. I'm just so grateful to you. So who's somebody who's been really important in your life? As Mr. Rogers used to always say, who loved you into being? Who was that first teacher in your life who made a huge difference in helping you to become the person that you are now? Well, I'm so proud to have sitting beside me Mrs. Visser, who was my second grade teacher and that first most important teacher in my life. Mrs. Visser, I'm so thrilled to be able to sit here with you. Thank you for making time for this.
Well, you're welcome, Adam. It was wonderful to hear from you after so many years.
I've really just seen how your teaching and your influence had such really lasting and meaningful ramifications on my life. One thing that I should tell you very transparently is that I had heard back in the springtime that Mrs. Visser had passed away. And at first when I heard that, I thought, oh no, I didn't get the chance to tell her how much she meant to me. It was my dad who had told me, and my dad said, no, not Carol Visser, not your second grade teacher. It was the other Mrs. Visser from Kelloggsville Christian. So obviously I was sad to hear about that, but at the same time, I was so relieved that you were still around and that I hadn't missed my chance. How many years were you a teacher?
I was a teacher 22 years at Kelloggsville. I was home when my children were young, and then when they got in school, then I went to teaching.
And was there anything special about second grade for you?
It was where they had an opening at the time, but I loved it.
I should have warned you before, but I think it's very conceivable that I might get a little misty-eyed at many points through our conversation today. You sparked in me a love of picture books and a love of literature and of authors, and that just spun into me becoming a storyteller later, and then that sort of blossomed into a career in children's television.
And I don't know if you know this, but the year that I had you in my class, Chris Van Allsburg was one of the authors, illustrators that we learned about, and he's from Grand Rapids. And he came to Grand Rapids during that year and gave a presentation at one of the downtown churches. And your mother had 2 tickets, and she asked me to go with her. And that was such a thrill for me. I will never forget it.
Okay, so this is very comical because I have a little list of questions I wanted to make sure to ask you. And that's absolutely far down here on my list, was about that experience. Because I remember being so jealous that my mother and my teacher were hanging out together. Not only that you were spending time together, but that you were going to hear my favorite author together too. I felt so left out. And it's to the point where I even remember some of the specific stories she came home and told me that he had told in the presentation.
That really made an impression. I never knew that you felt left out of that, but I felt so honored to be included.
I think one of my most enduring memories, and this might be the part where I get a little choked up, in our classroom, one of the authors that we studied was Stephen Kellogg. And I don't know where you got it from, but you had this poster that hung in our classroom for a season, and it was all the Stephen Kellogg characters in a parade. And I must have expressed, probably with a great deal of exuberance, how I thought that was just the neatest thing. And so I'll never forget, one afternoon during lunch, we were all sitting at our desks eating lunch, and you motioned me to come over to your desk, and you said, go get your book bag and come right back. And so I did as I was told. And you very surreptitiously, we'd finished the Stephen Kellogg section, you'd folded up the poster, and when I brought in my book bag, you took the Stephen Kellogg poster and you put it in my book bag. And I remember just being so, wow, so excited and thankful to have this bit of artwork. And I remember I said to you, "Oh, Mrs. Visser, is there anything I can do to repay you?" And you said to me, "Just be a very good second grader."
Which you were. I don't even remember that. So thank you for sharing that story, because it's just, yeah, that's the kind of teacher I wanted to be.
You were able to quietly love us in the unique ways that we were needing encouragement or a little extra push. Second grade is such a neat time in the life of a kid. You know, they're still tender-hearted. You know, it was still okay for me to hold Nate Menace's hand if we were on a field trip, but we were starting to develop these senses of things that we like.
Well, second graders were innocent and pure and naive enough to tell funny stories, and it is a fun age.
Well, are there any last thoughts or any other memories you'd like to share?
This is very precious time. I just couldn't believe that after 32 years, you would come back into my life. And I thought, I remember Adam well.
It's very special to me. Second grade for me was such an important year in setting me on a path to becoming the adult that I am today. So I'm just so grateful to you for your influence on my life. Thank you for being my teacher.
It was a blessing and a privilege.
Well, I think that's it. Was it less painful than you thought it was going to be?
I didn't really have to be so nervous, did I?
Not at all.
You've been very gracious.
Oh, well, this has been fun. This has been real fun for me.
To see more of our conversation, visit adamsanswers.com.